69 cross-country vehicles which were left to rot at the Institute of Local Government Studies at Medina for many years have finally been auctioned. The Hyundai Gallopers were ordered in the year 2000 by the government of then President Jerry John Rawlings at the cost of $30,000 each. They were, however, left at the mercy of the weather for nearly 2 decades, after which, rusty and wretched, have been valued at 19,150 cedis each, or less than $5,000 by the State Transport Company. A Joy News Hotline documentary, Grounded Wheels, produced some months ago, tells the story of the abandoned gallopers. Let's watch an excerpt.
The procurement of these vehicles started in 1999, but the contract was signed in 2000. The Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development ordered 110 of the galloper vehicles for the Metropolitan, Municipal and District Chief Executives. The supplier, Africa Automobile Limited, supplied 23, and the remaining 87 were to be supplied after some payments were made. Court documents and correspondence secured as part of these investigations reveal there's no consensus as to whose fault it was that the payment and delivery delayed. In 2001, however, the Auditor General wrote to the Ministry of Local Government ordering the cancellation of the contract and a refund of the monies paid, less the cost of the 23 gallopers that had been delivered in 2000. Africa Automobile says the vehicles had already been imported when the Auditor General ordered the cancellation of the contract. The reason for the cancellation was that the contract had not been performed at the agreed time, a claim the company contests. When a contract was signed 19 years ago, the gallopers cost $30,200, so the 110 vehicles amounted to $3,322,000. The government says it has paid the cedi equivalent of $2 million. The supplier, Africa Automobile Limited, on its part says the payment amounted to $1,251,000 because the cedi had depreciated against the dollar at the time it cleared the government checks. In 2005, Africa Automobile Limited sued the government for payment of the balance as well as for collateral damages. The case is still pending in an Accra High Court.
Now, joining me in the studio now is Malik Dabu, who's the editor of myjoyonline.com, with a bit more information on this transaction. Good evening to you, Malik. Now, how did we arrive at the prices of the gallopers at, what, 19,000 thereabout, and who's selling them?
No, you know, because the vehicles were not cleared. By law, the vehicles ought to have been cleared and duty paid. That didn't happen. To the extent that that didn't happen, by law, the vehicles became confiscated vehicles. And once they are confiscated vehicles, they fall within the bosom of the finance ministry to determine what should happen to them. Usually they auction them. So that's the reason why the finance ministry is actually the one which got the state transport company, STC, involved to do the valuation. And after the valuations were done, they then issued letters to persons desirous of procuring these vehicles. And each letter simply stated what the vehicle was, the year it was made, what the state in which it was, and then you were asked to go and assess it. If you assessed it and you were comfortable with the nature of the vehicle
and interested
in it, and given the price stated as 19,150 Ghana cedis, you then went to the Ghana Revenue Authority and paid. After payment, you take your receipt and then come to the local government institute where these vehicles were parked, and then you pick your vehicle. Now, our checks have indicated that 11 of these vehicles are sold there, but there are vehicles that people have picked them. Our sources also indicated there were people who picked the letters, came and assessed the vehicles, and didn't find them to be in condition good enough to warrant the amount of money that has been stated as a value for the vehicles, and therefore they didn't pick them, they walked away.
So does it mean that there's still some vehicles there that nobody bought?
Absolutely not. Even though the 11 are there, our sources indicate that these are vehicles that belong to people who are yet to pay for them, obtain the requisite receipts, and then come and pick them.
Does this end the matter, or we can expect that some action, some sanctions will be taken against the people who were responsible?
It doesn't end the matter because, as part of the report, you would hear Manasseh saying that Africa Automobiles that imported these vehicles went to court. They went to court because at the time the bone of contention was there a duly executed contract of sale asking Africa Automobile to supply these vehicles? The government's argument was there was none. The previous government, the government that preceded the Kufuor government, argued there was one. And in fact, the local government minister at the time, Kwamina Ahoy, who negotiated these vehicles, the purchase of these vehicles, in 2012 issued a statement in which he said that if the government failed to reach an out-of-court settlement with the company, he would be compelled to go to court and testify for the company against the state. And he said that there was another person in government at the time, Cecilia Johnson, who would also testify against the state. She was the one who negotiated the installment payment. Note that these vehicles were procured in 2000. Some of them, about 23 of them, came in 2000. There were 87 which came later on. The 87 didn't come. They came between 2001 and 2003. Now, when they came, Auditor General, as the report indicated, then wrote and said, cancel the contract because the contract was not performed within the time. And Professor Kwame Atuahoi's argument is that there was a binding contract between Africa Automobile and the local government ministry represented by the state. Right. Therefore, that contract was performed. So the government is legally liable to pay the amount of money that the supplier said the government ought to pay. Oh. We don't know if he has testified yet, but his argument in 2012 was that the company had a strong case against the state. You asked a question as whether any persons are going to be held liable for this transaction. Deputy Finance Minister Kweku Kwarteng told us that at this point, that's not the consideration. They are going to go into the matter. We pointed out that 87 were supposed to come because 110 were ordered because at the time, the local government service was such that we had 110 metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies. And these vehicles were ordered for MMDCEs. Yeah. So if we took delivery of 23, that means 87 were yet to have come. All right. If you have sold 69, where are the rest? He said they will check. All right.
Thank you very much, Malik Dabu. And he made reference to the Deputy Minister of Finance, Kweku Kwarteng. We have been speaking with him. Let's hear from him.
Beginning 2019, the vehicles were still out there, so we took steps to dispose of them. And we realized that even though there were aspects of the case that were still in court, we got legal advice that we could dispose of the vehicles because government of Ghana had paid for them, and that would not in any way get in the way of the matters that were still outstanding in court. So the first thing was to find out how much we should dispose it for, and we therefore wrote officially to STC, that has become the institution that provides market values for vehicles and similar auto for vehicles. And so they wrote back officially, and the vehicles were priced according to them on the market at about 20,000, a little over 20,000 Ghana cedis. They've been on the weather for a long time. The ties were down and all that. So once we got that, then if we wanted to really put it on the market and sell it at that price, then we needed to clear first as government. So what we did was that no, we were not going to clear. We would discount the price by what it was required to clear. And that was, I think, a little under 2,000 Ghana cedis. So that was done, and then all the vehicles were sold. So eventually the vehicles were sold for, all of them were sold for above, I think, 19,000. If we can look at some of the allocation for this one, they were not, because they were not all of the same quality. They had deteriorated to different extents. This one, for instance, that I'm holding was sold for 19,150. None of the vehicles was sold for less than 18,500.
Interior Minister Ambrose Sodari is to appear before Parliament next week to address the House on steps his ministry is taking to curb incidents of highway robbery in parts of the country. It follows a statement by MP for Manso Adubia Ya Frimpong demanding solutions to incessant robberies in his area. First Deputy Speaker Jose Owusu, who was presiding over proceedings, issued a summons.
Remains in a very deprived state in terms of human and material resources. The district has only 3 police stations at Ebibia, Datano, and Kenyago. A personnel strength of only 14 officers with no vehicle or motorbike, taking care of 93 communities with a total population of about 90,000. Mr. Speaker, one major factor facilitating this horrible situation is the bad road network throughout the district. Mr. Speaker, as security and personal protection have become an important concern with robbery, burglary, and other malicious practices being on the rise, the situation calls for an urgent intervention to ensure peaceful living. The district is a major contributor to the national economy by being a major source of gold, timber, cocoa, and other resources. We cannot subject the people and their resources to such glaring threats to their security. I therefore beseech the Minister of Interior and the Police Command to take appropriate steps to equip the police service in the district in order to safeguard security of the people.
I understand and I know the problem, and I know the challenges that commuters on that route are experiencing. Indeed, it is in the police attempt to deal with that some young men were shot and killed from Asawase constituency. That became a big issue. And it is because of the challenge that the police have in dealing with robbery on the road that spans between my constituency and his constituency, which is a huge challenge. But I'll direct that the Minister for Interior addresses the House next weekend, a week from today. Ministry of Interior addresses the House on what steps it's taking to deal with that challenge. It's being a long-standing one and on that route. So I so direct.
Still in Parliament, the House has approved a contract worth $272 million for the construction of a water system for the northern region capital Tamale and its environs. This was, however, not without some controversy, as the minority MPs raised concerns over the absence of a value for money audit report. Deputy Water and Sanitation Resources Minister Patrick Boama, however, says the report will be submitted before the project takes off.
MPP administration under President Kufuor to undertake the first phase of the Tamale Water Expansion Project, which was undertaken by Bywater. This government has seen that Tamale has grown. It has seen a lot of industrialization. It has seen a lot of activity, and has decided to undertake the Tamale Water Expansion Project, this time from Yape, the Yape intake point, to serve close to 800,000 people, which include the people of Tamale, Damango, and its environs, Nanton, Savulugu, Kumbungu, and a lot of the communities as listed on page 9 of the report from the Works and Housing Committee. I'm very, very happy that the government has decided to embark upon this program, especially when government is undertaking a lot of projects, which includes the One District, One Factory project, the One Village, One Dam initiative, and other initiatives by government. So I thank the good people of this country for supporting us, the Parliament, and the good people of the media for always being there to highlight some of these major achievements of this administration. Thank you very much.
During the discussion on the floor, your colleague John Jinapo raised an issue about the value for money audit that he would have preferred would have been done before this approval was given. What's your response to that?
Thank you. Mr. Jinapo is a member of the Finance Committee. The value for money audit is always done by the Ministry of Finance and submitted to the Finance Committee upon request. He came to the Works and Housing Committee and was informed that that report would be ready by the end of August. So he's aware, and I was surprised he raised it again. But it's within his right. Nobody does this project without a value for money audit, and it's always within the public domain to look at it. And we've also made a pledge to the Works and Housing Committee to submit it to them whenever it is ready, and also for them to also interrogate it.
Workers of the Ghana Maritime Authority have given their full backing to the recent appointment of the former Director General Kwame Usu as the board chair of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Mr. Usu resigned from the authority a few months after he was accused of impropriety and flagrant dissipation of its finances. His recent appointment as board chair of GRA comes even before an investigative report on the allegations against him are made public. This anti-corruption campaign, they say, is inappropriate and have demanded that President Akufo-Addo rescind his appointment until the allegations are cleared. At a news briefing Friday addressed by Deputy Director Search and Rescue at the GMA, Captain William Esiako Redu, the workers said, contrary to the claims against Mr. Owusu, he did a splendid job as Director General.
We have created jobs and boosted staff morale. This is not lip service. About 50 qualified and competent permanent staff were employed for various departments and units during the last 2 years under Mr. Owusu. 2, about 70 qualified staff received promotions which came with salary increases. 3, the authority had completed a tender for 27 new cars in 2016, but for more than 1 year we could not pay for them because of lack of funds. Upon Mr. Owusu's appointment, the authority sought a loan of 5.8 million Ghana cedis, and we were subsequently able to pay for them from our internally generated funds following the improvement in our revenue position. 4, 3 staff buses were purchased from internally generated funds and allocated to Tema, Takrady, and Accra. 5, in addition to these achievements, he created another employment avenue to mirror NABCO at the Ghana Maritime Authority. In 2018, by engaging 40 graduates for a 1,000 Ghana cedi allowance per month, higher than that received by NABCO staff in other organizations. 6, besides, in support of creating opportunities for the youth, the authority was able to accommodate 34 national service persons in 2017 and 2018, the highest number ever in the history of the authority. Some of these personnel were subsequently retained to join the NABCO program at the authority. 7, we are investing in an office complex. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, Mr. Kwame Owusu initiated and commenced the process of constructing offices at the head office in Accra and its branches at Tema and Takrady to provide decent office accommodation for staff to enhance productivity and befitting an organization of national and international importance. Subsequently, land was acquired and the statutory procedures completed to commence construction of the offices. 8, we are making new laws to create opportunities for Ghanaians.
The United Nations Education, Science and Culture Organization, UNESCO, is demanding an update on the death of investigative journalist Ahmed Suale. Ahmed Suale was shot thrice by unknown assailants at Medina on his way home in January this year. His killing shocked the entire nation, with police launching swift investigations into the incident. But almost 6 months on, it is not clear what the status of the investigation is. Speaking at the opening of a stakeholders forum to develop a mechanism for safe and responsible journalism, the UNESCO representative to Ghana, Mr. Abdurrahman Diallo, urged the police to provide an update on the case.
Ladies and gentlemen, UNESCO is working across the 3 organs, executive, the legislative, the governance of government, in order to enhance freedom of expression, one of its core mandates. Every year, the UNESCO Director General has made formal follow-up on journalists who have been aggressed, attacked, or killed. This is in line with the Resolution 29 of the condemnation of violence against journalists adopted by UNESCO General Conference in its 29th session in 1997. This year, UNESCO Director General urged Ghana as UNESCO member state to inform the organization, the Director General, on the status of the investigation of the killing of Ahmed Suale, the young investigative journalist.
Well, the Ghana Police Service will from next week roll out a special complaints mechanism to deal with assaults against journalists in the country. This forms part of the comprehensive media engagement program to enhance the relationship between journalists and the service. Speaking to join us on the sidelines of the forum, Director General of Public Affairs, ACP David Eklu, said the program will begin with the training of selected journalists in police operations.
For the police, we have already taken some pragmatic steps. That is, we are working with the various media groupings, the NMC, GJA, JIBA, Primpac, under the auspices of the Media Foundation for West Africa. A framework on improving relations between the police and the media has been approved by the police administration. And in this framework, there are key elements. One, the training of police officers on media relations, outlining the responsibilities of journalists and the police, especially during police operations, and then also a complaint mechanism where infractions against journalists and also infractions against police officers by journalists would be looked at, and then we take it up to the National Media Commission. And under this framework, we are going to have these regional committees where journalists who are affected by police operations in
Addressing stakeholders at the opening of the engagement, Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah expressed confidence the meeting will help produce a document that will enhance the cause of safe and responsible journalism.
One of the first points I want to make is about the actual animal we are trying to kill, or the actual subject we are trying to deal with. Often you will find that depending on which side of the divide you belong to, you pick one side of the challenge. But there are two sides to this challenge. You would find often those of us who are journalists and civil society groups that are associated with journalists campaigning for what we call free media. And we restrict it to free media only. And then you will find those on the other side who are often the duty bearers or persons at whom fingers are pointed at, also saying, no, let's talk about responsible journalism. We are of the view that the two go hand in hand. It is about free and responsible journalism. And free and responsible journalism ought not to be the focus of any one single stakeholder, but of all stakeholders.
Well, the draft framework put together by government and other stakeholders to create a safer environment for the practice of journalism in the country has been amended to focus on enhancing the safety of journalists. This was after stakeholders, including the GJA, the NMC, the Ghana Police Service and the Ghana Armed Forces at the meeting in Accra to discuss the document, objected to the inclusion of responsible as part of the focus of the framework. The initiative is aimed at providing guidelines in rolling out a national coordinating committee which would come up with solutions aimed at preventing threats against media freedom. Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleiman Abrahima, explains why it is important to place emphasis more on professionalism than responsibility.
Well, I've always said that the term responsibility when it comes to journalism is quite a delicate one. And I think it comes from the post-colonial, immediate post-colonial governance structure where governments had the philosophy that the media must be supporting the state. And being supportive of the state means you must be supporting the agenda of the government. So if the government is constructing a road and then you say, no, this is a bad contract, a bad project, the money is too much, you are seen as somebody who is opposing the interest of the state. And that's where the whole concept of responsibility started. So you are responsible to the state. You must not do something that undermines, the interest of the state and so on and so forth. But for me, it's about professionalism. We have ethical guidelines that must guide what we do. I mean, those in the medical profession, they have a responsibility to patients. But I haven't heard people talk about responsibility of the medical professionals and so on and so on. It's about professional practice, professional code. The legal profession, they have a responsibility, but everybody is talking about professionalism. So
for such associations, there are some sanctions that, erring doctors, if you like, in the case of Ghana Medical Association, come under if they are found to have violated the ethics or their code of conduct or something to that effect. Journalists don't have that kind of thing. You don't often hear of journalists being sanctioned when they do something wrong.
Well, I think it depends on the context. People may feel offended by something that a journalist has done, and legitimately so, but they may decide that, well, I don't want to go to the NMC or I don't want to go to court. Otherwise, those options are there. I have heard on a number of occasions where your colleagues at Multimedia, for one infraction or the other, somebody has gotten suspended, and other media houses also do the same thing. So it may not be entirely the case that, well, as for journalists, you can do anything and go scot-free. I mean, if not institutional sanctioning, you can be dragged to the National Media Commission, you can be dragged to court, and there are media houses who have had to pay fines, and it becomes a crippling thing. So it is not entirely the case that journalists are at liberty to do whatever they want to do. And I think that the emphasis should be on professionalism.
Students of conflict and crisis management are calling for the establishment of a body to coordinate response by conflict and crisis management agencies to shore up their ability to prevent or prepare for emergencies. This follows revelations that lack of coordination during crises usually leads to aggravation of the situation, which has led to the aggravation of many situations in cases. There were 127 students drawn from ministries, departments and agencies, as well as members from the security agencies, passed out at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College Friday. They have been assessing Ghana's preparedness for emergencies in the wake of terror threats and natural disasters in other parts of the continent. Here is Dean of the College, Dr. Vladimir Chudanso, with a summary of the recommendations.
They talked about the structure of the current management structure, and they believed that we needed a new structure, a structure that would be more commensurate with the type of crisis and conflict that we have. And they're saying that the main structures are hinged upon the National Security Council and NADMO. And they believed it is the interoperability of all agencies that make crisis and conflict management more plausible. And so they're asking for a new structure that will incorporate all agencies. And they brought it out very eloquently. They're also saying that funding has always been a problem. And because funding has always been a problem, even though we have the National Disaster Management Fund, they should believe that if the fund is made more legal in one way, expanded, and so that it is disseminated well, so that crisis and conflict management will be more swift. Then again, they also talked about the very fact that the dissemination of crisis and conflict management in the minds of Ghanaians has not gone down very well. Mapping of conflict and crisis areas have not gone down very well. And therefore they believe that we should do all these things and try as much as possible that a certain percentage of the national budget is located more to it than the current funding system that we have. And I believe they came out strongly with very good recommendations, which we are about sending to the Ministry of Interior so that it will affect policy.
Deputy Interior Minister Derek Odru, who addressed the students, said government is committed to investing in a well-coordinated contingency plan constancy, as well as detecting early warning systems.
It is recalled that a key objective of this course was to create and reinforce links among personnel and agencies as a prerequisite in the management of any situation. Crisis management is therefore a multi-agency task which requires varied skills and multiple capabilities. In reality, no single agency will be effective in managing even a single crisis. Early warning could be achieved through the needed investment in intelligence and surveillance. In this regard, on behalf of the government, I assure you that government would collaborate with other stakeholders to make the needed support available to the agencies to ensure a robust early warning system with regards to conflict and plan accordingly. May it not be said that we are unprepared when we are caught unawares. It is therefore important to have a well-rehearsed contingency plan in which the roles of all stakeholders are clearly spelled out.
You're watching Join Us when we're taking a break. The Methodist Church Ghana has dissociated itself from a recent decision by its British church that could lead to it embracing same-sex marriages. Speaking at a news conference in Accra, presiding Bishop Dr. Paul Boafo stated the Methodist Church in Ghana is autonomous and not bound by the votes by delegates at the conference in Birmingham. He says they will reject any decision that's not in conformity with its doctrinal teachings. Maxwell Agbagba has more.
Some members of the Methodist Church Ghana who were present at the press conference singing the hymn, "Who is on the Lord's Side?" Former presiding bishops of the church and other top officials were also present. Presiding Bishop, Most Reverend Dr. Paul Boafo says the decision by the British Methodist Church does not affect them in Ghana.
That the Methodist Church Ghana is an autonomous conference with its own leadership. We have been independent of the British Methodist Conference. Being an autonomous conference means that the Methodist Church Ghana is not, and I want to emphasize that, is not bound by the decisions of the British nor any other conference anywhere. Same-sex relationships are neither supported by biblical teaching, nor can the Bible's position be revised to support it. The Methodist Church Ghana rejects any revisionist interpretations of the Bible that seeks to make same-sex relationships permissible.
There are members of the Methodist Church Ghana worshiping with the church in the UK. Most Reverend Dr. Boafo indicated a decision would be made during its General Purposes Council meeting in August.
We are aware as a denomination that there are a lot of our members who worship in British Methodist churches and even Ghanaian Methodist ministers who serve under the British Conference with our permission. Let me say that come next month, which is August, when the church meets in our General Purposes, Expanded General Purposes Council meeting, we will give directives regarding how those concerned members and ministers can carry on with their church and personal Christian activities in view of this decision, because it is still under discussion.
He's urging Ghanaian leaders and politicians not to succumb to pressure and legalize homosexuality. Speaking on the sidelines of the event, former presiding bishop of the Methodist Church Ghana, Most Reverend Professor Emmanuel Asante, stated Christians and the church need to extend help to homosexuals.
Look, there are people who are also kleptomaniacs. They feel like going to steal, but that doesn't make it good. The fact that you have that inclination doesn't mean that you have to be a practicing homosexual. You need to ask for help. Let us all join together, not to condemn people who are practicing it, but to help them come out of this situation.
Ghanaian actor and NDC parliamentary candidate aspirant for Ayawaso West Wogon constituency John Dumelo has challenged government to show evidence of 5 new factories operating under its one district, one factory policy. Government promised to build a factory in every district, but the movie actor argues the government is only commissioning already existing factories, which marks of deception. John Dumelo is of the opinion almost 3 years after the NPP took office, little has been done to justify its re-election bid. He is confident of a John Mahama victory in the 2020 polls. He spoke with Joy News' Kwesi Parker-Wilson after filing his nomination to contest in the NDC's upcoming parliamentary primaries.
We are winning the seat we are winning the presidency in the year 2020. I mean, people are yearning for change. The change that they voted for in 2016 is not the change that they are seeing now. The change that they voted for, I mean, the promises that the NPP made in 2016, none of them have been fulfilled. Just a few have been fulfilled, and people are disappointed. People want change. People are calling for the NDC to come back. People are calling for John Mahama to come back. And this is a call for each and every one of us to say that, look, the NDC coming back is the best thing that can happen to Ghana in the year 2020.
So the NDC is coming back?
Definitely.
What happens if the NDC fails to come back?
No, it won't. I mean, we are not even thinking about that. We are coming back.
No, Nanado, 3 SHS, one district, one factory. They talked about one dam, one district, one dam. NCC.
I mean, the truth of the matter is that you know, even when you're speaking, you're fumbling because you know that it's not true. If they say one district, if they say one factory, one district, one factory, they should just show me 5 factories that are functional now that they built from 2017 till now that are employing people. Just 5, and I'll clap for them. The dams that they are talking about, they should just show me the dams that are working now that is working and people are profiting from it or benefiting from it. I mean, come on, these are lies. I mean, look, in 2016, they said they were going to build 51 factories in the first year. They should just show me 5 functional factories that are working, that we can go. Not factories that have been rebranded to make it look like, they should just show me 5. And I would go there and we'll see that this factory is working and so on and so forth. I mean, we're in the 3rd year. Just recently, they released $1 million cities. $1 million per constituency. It was supposed to have done the 1st year. It was supposed to have done the 2nd year.
Feasibility studies
no.
To ascertain the needs of the
But during campaigning, they didn't say they'll do feasibility studies to ascertain the needs before they release it in the 3rd year. They said the 1st year, King Crime will give you $1 million. The 3rd year, you're releasing $1 million. What does it tell you? And they failed.
He also explained why he's shifting from acting into politics.
Me filing means a lot, not just to me, but to my constituents, which is Ayawaso West Wogon, or to my constituency, which is Ayawaso West Wogon, and most importantly, to my constituents who are yearning for, for change, who are yearning for development, who are yearning for jobs, who are yearning for somebody to come and redeem their image. And so that's one of the reasons why I decided.
And you think you're the man to redeem the image of the constituents?
I can't do it alone. I think I can do it with the help of those who live in Ayawaso West Wogon. I mean, a lot of people might say that Ayawaso West is probably the richest constituency in Ghana because it's full of elites, but I mean, going to the ground, getting to the ground and speaking to people have a lot of problems which, they've been neglected over the years, and I feel that I am the man for the job. It was a call by the youth in the party. It was a call by the youth even outside the party. It was a call by the floating voters that, look, John, we want you to come and contest. We need your voice in Parliament and a representation of them in Parliament. And if it's my voice, it's their voice.
Now, have you ever heard of a forest plant believed to have the ability to make a woman barren or force her into premature menopause? How about its leaves having magical potency to charm a woman into a relationship against her will, in addition to aiding abortion? Joining us is Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin takes us through the age-old myth about the plant known scientifically as Dalbergia lactea and why it is a shrine for worshippers at the Robbery Forest and Butterfly Sanctuary in the Ashanti region.
Well, I can touch this tree many times, but a woman cannot touch this tree. It is believed that any woman who touches this tree will become barren. And it is also believed that the leaves can be used to charm women, especially when you are not being able to convince someone you love.
It is rumored that when you cut it, blood comes out of it.
It is known in Accra as Homachin, believed to have mythical features for which locals worship as a deity.
And the scientific name is Dalbergia lactea. This Dalbergia has a lot of supernatural and superstitious beliefs associated with it.
It is one of few plant species found only in forest reserves and therefore receives proper attention. Many tourists and foresters love visiting here. Mr. Christian Opoku Kwating is the Principal Technologist Council for Scientific Industrial Research for the Forest Research Institute of Ghana and manager of the Bobere Research Center.
It is also believed that females are not supposed to touch it. If you're a female and you touch this plant, you will cease to menstruate and henceforth you will not reproduce. Besides that, only the chief fetish priest is allowed to perform the necessary rituals for the ancestors in order to harvest any parts of this plant, either the bark, the wood, the leaves, the roots, or any parts for their intended purposes.
We sought to find out from some ladies what they make of these beliefs. Here is Nancy Katare.
It's somehow discriminating that men should touch it and women shouldn't touch it. So I think that we should rather do something about it. Why don't women touch it? What is the main? Because every tree women can touch it. So why not touching of these trees?
I see it to be superstitious. Like, to me, I can, but then.
So I asked if she could be bold enough to touch it.
I won't touch it because that's what they are saying, but me, purpose, I don't believe in it.
You don't believe in it?
Yes.
Then touch it unless you...
No.
The leaves of the perennial plant are hard to come by, seeing as they literally hide from people because of their ability to charm women.
Leaves also has magical powers, mainly for the production of, in quotes, in our local parlance, we call it for girls. Let's say a man proposes to a woman and she is proving difficult in accepting the proposal. A fetish priest who has the required expertise can be consulted, perform the necessary rituals, fetch the leaves, and use it to prepare the potent concoction. But the leaves are also very hard to come by because the plant tries to hide the leaves.
The tree's back is believed to be a sedative. It can therefore be used to cure severe depression.
It is worth mentioning that the exudate of this Dalbergia lactea is a sedative, so it can be used to cure diseases like that of depression. When a relative is depressed and become hyperactive, you give him an exudate or even a bark of this plant to chew, suck in the exudates. He will sleep for a very long time, a minimum of 6 hours, and wake up very relaxed with a recovery from the hyperactive situation.
We may believe or not believe in such myths. However, it is necessary perhaps to show great respect for the genius of nature's designs, rigorously tested and refined over millions of years.
Continue our conversation. Yes.
Well, now, if it is confirmed, then the Dalbergia lactea would indeed be the real G.